The 6 hours of Sao Paulo certainly generated a lot of different headlines, and in this video we're going to unpack some of them. We're going to talk about the results in HyperCAR and LMGT3, and we'll probably get into a bit of a debate about the future of balanced performance as well. I will start off with the winners. Well done to Haas Team Jota, well done to the Cadillac V Series R, well done to the 12 and the 38. They were the fastest two in qualifying, and they finished 1-2 in the race. In the end, it was close. The number 5, driven by Anlauer and Christensen, was just under 2 seconds behind at the end of the race, and Bourdais and Anlauer were battling away for that final hour. It was incredibly impressive watching that battle going on. But it was only 3 cars on the lead lap at the end of it, even though we had a couple of different safety car periods. The top 5 were rounded out by the number 6 Porsche Penske and the number 20 BMW WRT. And then, surprisingly enough, it was another double bill. The first car's 2 laps down, with the 2 Peugeots, with the 94 beating the 93. And yeah, it was an impressive win. It's impressive as well for Haas Team Jota because they won with 2 different manufacturers in the past 2 years now. They are also the first team to have done that in the modern era of WEC. And in addition to all of that, they're also the first ones to win as a manufacturer and as a privateer. It's wonderful. It's a nice little series of firsts to be able to have. And this is a track that does well for cars like the Caddy. Because one of the things we said at Le Mans was we didn't know whether or not the Caddies were going to be a little bit faster. And they ended up getting the front row there as well. These kinds of power tracks, these ones where speed is good, bode well for the Cadillac. Because, well, they're going to be a bit slower through some of the tighter sections of the track, but at the same time, those are the sections of the track where the HyperCARs tend to be similar in pace to LMP2s. Because what they are is essentially souped up LMP2s. So they didn't lose too much in the slower bits, but in the faster bits, it was a happy hunting ground. And I believe it was another first in GT3 as the 87 Recors ASP ended up taking the class win over the TF Sport 81, with the podium being rounded out by the Racing Spirit of Le Mans Aston Martin number 10. It was a really good run for that 87 car, with the lead listed driver, Jose Maria Lopez, having been somebody who's won championships with Toyota in the past. And that Lexus RCF GT3, bear in mind, is actually the oldest GT3 in the field. Because the Iron Lynx Mercedes are the 2020 version, and this predates that. It was great to see them up at the front. It was great to see them winning. And this is another track which, again, whilst balanced performance, which is something we'll get into in a moment, did end up falling in favour of it, you do have to recognise that this car does well at power circuits. We see it in IMSA. I mean, it was one where Daytona for years was a happy hunting ground. So it's not the most surprising, but I believe it's another first win for Lexus in LMGT3. Elsewhere, we should probably talk about some of the less fortunate stories. Starting off with Ferrari. Now, for the manufacturer's standings, the 51 and the 50 do get points because, well, they finished behind the 2 privateer entries. The 83 499p was 8th, and the 99 Proton 963 was 10th. But in terms of the in-season teams and driver standings, they were 11th and 12th. They didn't get any points. It could be worse, though, because in HyperCAR, Toyota didn't get any either. In fact, the only GTPs or LMDHs or LMHs that they beat was one LMH, the Aston Martin Valkyrie 007, which is the one that had the incident. It span out because of an incident with a GT3. And then WRT number 15. which was 20 laps down because they had to pit with mechanical issues. So, it wasn't like they were ahead of anybody on pace. They were ahead of these other teams because they had misfortune. And you could argue that Toyota's continuing to have misfortune anyways. It's one of those ones that feels almost the "oh, the mighty have fallen" that you look at Red Bull in F1. But it's slightly different with Toyota. We'll get into it in a moment with the debate about BoP, but it is a slightly different picture altogether. As for LMGT3, the unlucky entries were the likes of the Proton Ford Mustangs. Neither of them finished, both for mechanical reasons. And it was a shame for the 77 because they were contending for, I think, the podium at one point. And they go out, and then they have to come back in, and they retire. They're not the only ones who are necessarily down their luck. The Iron Lynx number 60, for example, was at the end of the leading pack, whilst the 61 was also listed as a DNF. There are other drivers that had incidents. The 27, for example, ended up having an incident. And there were cars that ended up picking up things like late race punctures as well, which held them back. Perhaps the one that you feel the most for would be the Iron Dames, who were on for a podium. And actually, Michelle Gatting has taken responsibility for them not getting a podium, because Gatting was too quick to turn off the FCY mode. There was a full course yellow. She turned off the mode a little bit too quickly, picks up a drive-through. And then, whilst battling for the podium towards the end, ends up in a battle with the TF Sport 81. Ends up being also passed by the number 10 Racing Spirit of Le Mans. And it's a shame for them because they were convincingly better than the Mante 92. A podium would have been deserved. Potentially even a runner-up spot. But it wasn't to be on the day, and I'm sure they'll get it soon. They've been the best out of the Iron Lynx 3 teams this year. And you might say that's because the Mercedes is just getting into WEC. But they have been very impressive anyways. But let's quickly talk championship standings. It is still 1-2 for Ferrari in the HyperCAR Championship. 105 points for the AF Corsa 51. The 83 is on 94 points. So it is essentially a 2-horse race. It's not guaranteed to be a 2-horse race though. Remember, the next 2 races are towards 6 hours, but then you've got the 8 hours of Bahrain. So, realistically, 88 points is the maximum points score you can get from these final 3 rounds. Which means, feasibly, anyone down to 16th place, which is the second WRT, could emerge as the champions. In the manufacturer's standings, therefore, Cadillac and Porsche could feasibly catch as well. So could, technically, Toyota. The HyperCAR teams, the privateer one, looks a little bit more, with it being 163 to 99, like it's going to go the way of AF Corsa. They could just finish second to Proton for the remainder of the season and win the title. They just need to finish the races, or be classified at the end of the races. But, yeah, it's going to be tricky for anybody to really catch Ferrari. You're going to have to feel like you're going to be fortunate with the BoP. Meanwhile, in the LMGT3s, Mante First Form are 13 points clear of the Vista AF Corsa 21, and 23 points clear of the 33 TF Sport Corvette. The Codus ASP's 87 is on 57 points. They are, 32 behind the 92? And 1 point clear of the 81. So those 5 teams are probably the ones that if you were looking for somebody to compete for the title over the final 3 events, they're the ones that you'd be keeping an eye on. But let's quickly talk BoP. Let's talk balance of performance, because it is something that is tricky to get right. And it essentially comes down to this debate. What is the primary aim of BoP? Because you can really have 2 ways of doing it. One is an equality of technologies. What you're doing there is you're saying, okay, we notice that this car is going to have a natural knack for this. So it's still got to keep that, but on the other hand, it's not going to be as great in other areas. Or you do it as a success penalty. And I would say the problem that WEC has right now is it's trying to do both. I think the way that that's best exemplified when it comes to WEC this weekend is look at what happened with Ferrari and with Toyota this season. Toyota has struggled. They really have. I mean, it's gone to the point that we saw the famous kind of if I speak I am in trouble moment at Spa. But the FIA keeps changing how it measures BoP. The FIA and the ACO, that is. And so we don't know if the way the BoP was measured was changed between Spa and now. But Spa had a different system to Imola, for example. And we don't know what the impact of that is. Is it good? Is it less good? And it's not something that is universal in terms of an issue, because you could argue that GT World Challenge and SRO have been doing a good job with BoP. I mean, heck, look at the IGTC with the different winners that you're picking up there. Let alone places like GT World Challenge Europe. I would say that the GT3s are generally doing alright when it comes to balanced performance, and you can see it with the variety of different manufacturers picking up the wins. Sure, Mante First Form ended up winning at Imola and at Le Mans. But they were the champions last year, so is it that surprising? I mean, they had a ridiculous run last year, whereas this year we have that Porsche winning, yes. But we've also had a Ferrari, we've also had a Corvette, we have also had a Lexus winning. Meanwhile, the Cadillac win here was the first non-Ferrari win of 2025. And that is a question of what do you want out of your BoP? Because right now, there are some bits that try to even out the playing field. You can see that in the fact that some of the manufacturers, like, for example, Cadillac, had some gains this weekend. But at the same time, there are elements that are punitive. Who were the heaviest cars this weekend? It was Ferrari and it was Toyota. Ferrari had a massive power nerf. Toyota didn't really have much in the way of a power buff. Whilst the Aston had some increases, it is going to be running near the back regardless, because it's the first year that it's in the system. So you don't want to say, okay, the Aston Martin with these drivers should be as fast as Ferrari with these drivers. Because you might find, for example, Pierre Guidi is this specialist who's won everything in endurance racing. Do you expect that the likes of, I don't know, someone like Ross Gunn, who I believe his background's GT3, right, is going to jump in and perform at the same level as Pierre Guidi? Do you believe that Kevin Estre and Lawrence Vanthoor should be as fast as, I don't know, someone like, and I know I am picking on the Aston Martins here, Roman De Angelis. But the reason why is not a thing of this is raw pace, this is a thing of experience. If you're involved in PPM, you're going to have a lot more running time. You're essentially the works team for an LMDH program. You'll probably double duty between IMSA and WEC. And yeah, I've picked out the guys who are also running the IMSA package for the heart of racing. But this is kind of my point. You don't want to punish somebody for being more experienced. You don't want to punish somebody for being a faster driver. What you want to do is you want to help build up the faster cars. So, not necessarily hold back those that are slower, but make sure that everybody's on the same playing field. Make sure that different cars have different strengths. So, for example, the last two might be more in terms of a Cadillac hunting ground, but they might struggle at COTA because of the chicane section, which may play more to Ferrari's advantage, or Porsche's. Whereas Fuji might play more to what Toyota have. That, I think, is the best way forward. Either way, those are my thoughts, those are my feelings. Let me know yours in the comment section down below. Thanks so much for watching and joining, folks, and until next time, it's bye-bye for now.